Assume. To think that something is true, although you do not have definite proof. To start to have a particular quality or appearance. To be based on the idea that something else is correct. I didn't see your car, so I assumed you'd gone out. These relationships assume great importance in times of crisis. The problem is beginning to assume massive proportions. The theory assumes that both labor and capital are mobile. Assumption. Something that you think is true although you have no definite proof. When someone starts to have control or power, a lot of people make the assumption that poverty only exists in the third world. People make a lot of assumptions about me. The assumption of responsibility. Presume. To think that something is true, although you are not certain. To accept something as true until it is shown to not be true, especially in law. To behave without respect or politeness by doing something that you have no right to do. To accept something as being true and base something else on it. Each of you will make a speech, I presume. We must presume innocence until we have evidence of guilt. I would never presume to tell you what to do. The ancient history course presumes some knowledge of Greek. Suppose. To think that something is probably true, based on what you know. To expect that something will happen or be true, and to base your plans on it. There were many more deaths than was first supposed. What makes you suppose we're going to sell the house? The company's plan suppose a steady increase in orders. Endorse. To express formal support or approval for someone or something. To sign your name on the back of a check to show that it is correct. The Prime Minister is unlikely to endorse this view. Endorsement. An expression of formal support or approval for someone or something. A statement made by a famous person in an advertisement saying that they like and use a particular product. An official record made on someone's driving license to show that they are guilty of a driving offense. The official endorsement of his candidacy. Celebrity endorsements. To say it is the least bad system is hardly ringing endorsement. Synthetic. Produced by combining different artificial substances, rather than being naturally produced. Synthetic chemicals. Reimburse. To pay money back to someone when their money has been spent or lost. The company will reimburse you for travel expense. Stack. A neat pile of things. To make things into a neat pile, or to form a neat pile. To put neat piles of things on something. A stack of papers. Stacks of dirty dishes. The assistants priced the items and stacked them on the shelves. The floor was stacked with boxes. Pile up. To increase in quantity or amount, in a way that is different to manage. To arrange things in a pile. It wasn't long before the debts were piling up. The traffic starts piling up around this time. The work has a tendency to pile up if I'm not careful. Tiny donuts piled up in a dish. Warehouse. A large building for storing large quantities of good. It will be years before I catalog her paintings in a warehouse room. Imply. To suggest that something is true, without saying this directly. If a fact, event implies something, it shows that it is likely to be truism. If one thing implies another, it proves that the second thing exists. An implied threat. The high level of radiation in the rocks implies that they are volcanic origin. Democracy implies a respect for individual liberties. High profits do not necessarily imply efficiency. Implicit. Suggested or understood without being stated directly. Forming a central part of something, but without being openly stated. Complete and containing no doubts. Her words contained an implicit threat. Confidentiality is implicit in your relationship with a counselor. They had implicit faith in his powers. Allude. This building serves as a point of reference, alluding in its monumentality to the idea of art as drama. I do not now allude to preference, though of course that comes first. Illustrate. To make the meaning of something clearer by giving examples. To be an example which shows that something is true or that a fact exists. To put pictures in a book, article. Let me give an example to illustrate the point. This dispute illustrates that the regime is deeply divided. Over 100 diagrams, tables, and pictures illustrate the book. Explain. To tell someone about something in a way that is clear or easy to understand. To give a reason for something or to be a reason for something. He carefully explained the procedure. The librarian will explain how to use the catalog system. How can you explain that sort of behavior? I'll explain why I don't believe your story. Exemplify. To be a very typical example of something. To give an example of something. The building exemplifies the style of architecture which was popular at the same time. Problems are exemplified in the report. Quote. To repeat exactly what someone else has said or written. To give a piece of information that is written down somewhere. To give something as an example to support what you are saying. To tell customer the price you will charge them for a service or product. To give the price of a share or currency. A sentence or phrase from a book, speech which you repeat in a speech or piece of writing because it is interesting or amusing. A statement of how much it will probably cost to build or repair something. She quoted from a newspaper article. You can order by phoning our hotline and quoting your credit card number. He quoted the example of France as a country with a good rail service. They quoted a price of $100. The pound was quoted this morning at just under $1.46. A quote from the minister's speech. Always get a quote before proceeding with repair work. The company is now quoted on the stock exchange. Comprise. To consist of particular parts, groups. To form part of a large group of people or things. The house comprises 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a living room. The committee is comprised of well-known mountaineers. Women comprise a high proportion of part-time workers. Contain. If something such as a bag, box, or place contains something, that things is inside it. If a document, book, speech contains something, that thing is included in it. If a substance contains something, that thing is part of it. To control strong feelings of anger, excitement. To stop something from spreading or escaping. To surround an area or an angle. The thief stole a purse containing banknotes. The proposed changes are contained in a policy statement. This product may contain nuts. Jane couldn't contain her amusement any longer. He was so excited he could hardly contain himself. Doctors are struggling to contain in the epidemic. Measures aimed at containing political opposition. How big is the angle contained by these 2 sides? Involve. If an activity or situation involves something, that thing is part of it or a result of it. To include or affect someone or something. To ask or allow someone to take part in something. What will the job involve? These changes will involve everyone on the staff. Try to involve as many children as possible in the game. There have been 4 accidents involving Forest Service planes.